My favourite movie of all time is Back to the Future. Not just because the DeLorean is the coolest thing that's ever been converted into a time machine, right? But because Marty McFly gets sent back and forth in time, and over the course of 3 epic movies, he creates a better future for himself, his family, and his entire community. Whilst the future may look bright for some lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans people, for many of us, it's hard to imagine a future where we're not discriminated against, bullied, or excluded from society. And although it's no longer illegal to be LGBT+ here in the UK, you don't have to look too far back to find a time where if you were, it was against the law to simply be you. If only I had the luxury of going back in time and redefining the future. But regardless of where we have been, I believe that the future for all LGBT+ people here in Brighton, the UK, and beyond can be bright if everyone walks alongside us and celebrates us for who we are. Ever since I can remember, I felt different. I was different. The world was different. I grew up in 80s Britain, and there were certain expectations that were put on me by society, by my family, by my friends, that was purely based on me being a girl. I was expected to wear dresses, play with dolls, fancy boys, play with the girls in the playground, and of course, I should be quiet and demure. As you can probably already tell, I was absolutely none of those things. I absolutely hated wearing dresses and still very much do. I played football, I did karate, I rode around on my BMX bike, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were my go-to dolls. All of my friends were boys, and more often than not, I was the only girl, not the only person, I was the only girl at their birthday parties. I was called a tomboy. This was a label that was put on me by the adults around me so that they could understand who I was. This made me feel like I had to conform. I even went through a straight phase for a couple of years. But all this label did was make me feel different. And that feeling has never really gone away. So, if I could jump in my DeLorean and alter the future, what would that look like? Well, I imagine a world where everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, disability, race or background, are listened to, given spaces to meet, access opportunities, and support to become the best versions of themselves. For people in my own communities, I also imagine a world where kindness and inclusion is just second nature, where discrimination doesn't exist, where we have equal access to healthcare and to education, where we're embraced and valued for our differences, where we're supported to make informed choices about ourselves, and where specific services for us just don't need to exist. But most of all, I imagine a world where we listen. We listen to people's real lives and their lived experiences, and not ideological rhetoric. Now, in Back to the Future 2, which is the best one, Marty's arch nemesis, Biff, he steals the time machine, and he uses it to alter the future for his own benefit, which creates this dystopian world which completely destroys Marty's life and the whole Hill Valley community. Now, when I think about the current political and social discourse surrounding LGBT, but particularly trans and non-binary and gender-exploring people, it feels like we're already living in Biff's alternate future. Trans people are being targeted. They're being demonized and othered by society, by the press, by the government, and by people on the internet. They're being told that there's something wrong with them and that they do not belong. The UK government has recently banned conversion therapy for LGBT people, but still is supporting the use of it for trans, non-binary and gender exploring people. And this is despite NHS England, the British Psychological Society and 30 other bodies all saying that conversion therapy is potentially unethical and harmful. I repeat, trans people are being targeted. They're being told that they're taking rights away from others, particularly women. They're not trying to take anything away from anyone. They just want to be treated equally, feel safe and accepted for who they are. They're being told that they can't possibly feel the way that they do, and that their feelings are invalid. They're being told without compromise that they don't know what's right for themselves, their minds, and their own bodies. For many, going to school or work, walking down the street, or simply being at home isn't safe. We already live in a world where trans and non-binary people wait at least 3 years for a first appointment to see an NHS specialist. Just think about that for a second. Think about the most recent time that you have needed some sort of medical help of some kind. It could be that you were struggling with your mental health, or you were looking to seek fertility treatment. Now imagine being told that you'll have to wait at least 3 years for that first appointment to see a specialist. It's outrageous, isn't it? It's dehumanizing and it's damaging. And if we continue down this path, then we're heading towards a world where societal restrictions will affect all of us. This will be a world where the use of toilets, for example, are regulated, and the use of which are based purely on assumption and appearance. As a gay woman, I've got first-hand experience of this. I have been shouted at by other women that I'm in the wrong toilet far too many times to even remember. I was even once asked at a wedding if I was some sort of male lesbian because I happened to use the men's loo because there wasn't a queue. And all of this is because I don't look like or behave in a way that society has told us that a woman can be. For the last decade, I have had the incredible privilege of working with All Sorts Youth Project, where we listen to, connect and support LGBT+ children, young people and their families through youth work. And through youth work. We survey our young people quite a lot to find out what's going on for them. In our most recent survey, 70% of our young people said that they had suffered some form of LGBT phobia, whether that would be at school, at work, at home, or online. 100% of our young people, 100% of our young people said that they had experienced some sort of mental health challenge, whether that be anxiety, stress, depression, or low self-esteem. When you compare that to NHS figures for all young people, the negative impact on our communities is abundantly clear. My approach to working with children and young people is to meet them where they're at, walk alongside them, and make sure that they have access to fun, life-affirming spaces where they have access to positive role models who are supporting them to learn about themselves. I went to the under-11s group the other day to ask them what activities they wanted to do. Not a single one of them asked to do any kind of activities around gender. What they did ask me for was for more dragons to be involved at the group and for us to consider breeding hamsters. Now, the hamster breeding thing little off-piste in terms of youth work, not going to do that. I have, however, made sure that dragons are now fully represented at the kids group. Our under-19s, they come along, they meet their friends, they talk about all the things that they're into, such as anime, gaming, art, politics, what they're up to at the weekend. They are so kind and supportive of one another, and it is really, truly inspiring to watch. Ultimately, the children that we work with are just that. They're kids. They're trying to find a way in their world where they're being demonized because of one single aspect of who they are. Now, we might only see a young person at our groups for a couple of hours a week, if that. So what else can we do to make sure that they feel supported? I am a firm believer in the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes an entire community of people to interact positively with all children so that they can grow in safe and happy, healthy environments. And that's why it's so important that we work with families, schools, and other professionals, because it's building that awareness, inclusion, and safety across all areas of their lives. And then this, of course, gives the adults around them the knowledge and the understanding of the challenges and the inequalities that they face and how best to support them. But we can't do this alone. We need everyone, whether you're LGBT+ or not, to stand up and speak out, because we can't change the hearts and minds of people on our own. Now, I know that my home city of Brighton has an amazing reputation for being a wonderfully diverse and inclusive place. And I'm sure that most of you are already amazing allies to the people in my communities. But I know from the many conversations that I have with people that they're sometimes fearful or worried about getting things wrong and upsetting someone, particularly around the use of pronouns. Language and terminology is moving really quickly as we're all trying to come to understand the many human complexities around sexual orientation and gender. So if this isn't your world, and even if it is, it can be super intimidating. So it's important to know it's okay to get things wrong. I still get stuff wrong. If I feel I've messed up, I apologize. I ask the person how they'd like me to refer to them. Correct myself, and I move on. It's as simple as that. Now, I cannot stress enough today how much we need you all, because our experiences and our voices are being completely drowned out by a tiny, tiny minority of people who just happen to have the biggest platforms and the loudest voices. So, here's how you can become or continue to be an ally, both in your personal and your professional lives. Get interested and get educated. Be a visible ally. It can be as simple as wearing a lanyard or having your pronouns on the bottom of your emails. Please include us and our experiences by raising our voices. Challenge other people, but only when it is safe to do so. And support LGBT+ groups who are on the front line of this work. Ultimately, we're all just trying to find our way in the world, right? Our children are the future, and we don't need a time machine built out of a DeLorean to change that. Trust me, I've tried. We can do it together. So if you, like me, believe that we all deserve the right to be treated with dignity, respect, and humanity, be a Marty. Don't be a Biff.